Live from New York, let's break some up. You're listening to Shatter the Glass with your sister from another mister, Yawne.
Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the next episode with Lieutenant Lee and me. Yay! Instagram, I'm only going to give you a few minutes. So please jump on in, but please head over to YouTube, okay? You're only going to get a couple minutes because the platform is YouTube. I'm being courteous. Y'all know how this go. So for everyone who is already on joining us, you can definitely leave comments and stuff. Please keep it courteous. I'm going to ask you that. I like likes, not strikes. Likes, not strikes. Okay? So tonight, I'm very, very honored and humbled to have Lieutenant Renee Lee, former Lieutenant Renee Lee with us. Put some respect on the retirement, okay, because she has done 24 years of service for the NYPD, and we just don't hear people say those numbers anymore. And so I want to give her as much respect as that's deserved, because that's honorable. And most of us don't last 24 months somewhere. So to last 24 years is a blessing. And so tonight's topic is very sensitive. And I am going to tell you that if it's too much, definitely seek support from who you can get support from. So whether it's a pastor, therapist, someone that you can speak to in the community, because this topic is sensitive and we're very understanding to what just took place and what continues to take place in our community. And so I am looking forward to hearing from her on her perspective about how this goes, because we understand that there's good and bad in everything. And we also understand that there's things that are told and not told in these situations as well. And so we're very clear about the sensitivity as it impacts our community and those sometimes even in our families and friends and so forth. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring her up. Hey, Rhonda. Hi.
My sister had to be in there somewhere.
She said she's coming to support.
I appreciate all the support that we can get.
Yes. So, how are you?
I'm good. I'm retired. Okay. I'm enjoying life. I hope to start traveling a lot more.
Yes.
Doing a lot of beautiful things.
Yes, this is what I'm talking about. And you retired, like, I'm not gonna tell you business because your age is your own age, but it's a good thing to do it. Like, you're still healthy, you're still functioning. Some people wait till they like 70 something years old to retire, then they can't move, need help. And so I think this is the perfect time. I say go live your best life, have fun, and go see everything you want to see.
Yes.
All right, so we are, I'm gonna bring it back down. I'm in a happy mood, but I know our conversation is serious.
Yeah.
And so as a start, like, what was it like to be an officer here in NYC?
So I started back in December 5th of 1997 is when I entered the police academy. And let me start it off first. I started as a cadet. And a cadet program is something that you do for at least approximately maybe 2 to 3 years, depending on when you start and how many credits you have. But it's usually a 2-year program. So I met somebody while I was in LaGuardia, and she was from Queensbridge. And I can't remember her name. I'm hoping she's tuned in on this and she remembers me. And she's like, oh, it was me. But I don't remember her name. I just remember sitting at the lunch table and her ID popped out. And it was a police cadet ID. And I was like, oh, what's that? And then she went to commence to telling me about the program. So the program was a 2-year program. You go during the summer full time. And then during the school year, you go part time and you make your own schedule. So at that time I had a young child at that time. And I'm trying to, work, go to school, work, and do everything else that I do. And I was like, none of the jobs was working because it wasn't working around my school schedule. So she gave me the number, and then I filled out the application. I totally forgot about it. And one day I get a call and they're like, NYPD. And I'm like, I know I didn't do anything to anybody. So they were like, no, this is a program that we had. You signed up and you were selected. And I was like, are you still interested? And I said, yes. So I went down, I went for the orientation, and then I completed the 2-year program, and then I went into the police academy in December 5th or 7th of 1997. That lasted for at least 6 months. And in that police academy, you had a lot of training. You had like police science, law, and social science. And they kind of taught you on the things that you can and you cannot do. So that lasted for about 6 months. And once they gave me my gun and my shield, I remember I lived in Queensbridge. I forgot the building. It was on 10th Street, and I lived on the 6th floor. I remember looking at the 59th Street Bridge, and then I looked at the gun and the shield, and I was like, what did I just do? What? Sign up for? The academy was okay because, you're in a safe haven, but now I'm going out into the city, and I'm like, what is going to happen? And they always tell you when you go in the police academy, they tell you, look to your left, look to your right, because some of you guys may not make it. And when they tell you that, they mean like, you can get killed. This is a very serious job. You can get fired. There's a lot of things that can go on that job. So all of that was like starting to build them to me. But then when they gave me my assignment, and the first place I went to was Police Service Area 5, which is a housing police department, housing section of the police department. And that was located on 116th and 5th Avenue, I believe. And that was like, they put you out there by yourself. Yourself? No partner? So what happens in the beginning, you go through a training. It lasts for probably maybe 30 days or something to that effect. And then eventually at some point, like maybe 6 months into your career, like the 6 months in the first year that you start, then you're solo. What? We were out there. I was out there sometimes they have like a housing development that was next. And so you can sometimes link up with that person. But when I started out, I was solo.
I'm sorry, that is so disrespectful on so many levels. Not as you just coming out. I could see if you had years of experience, then that's different.
No, so about 6 months in, they kind of start like giving you assignment, and then they start putting you out there by yourself. Because remember, housing is not it's not a large amount of cops in that, facilities. It's probably it's not that many. So they have to try to spread you out as much as you can. So NYPD was looking to get the best bang for their buck, but that's just how they trained you. But good thing that I lived in Queensbridge, and I had a little bit of the colloquial to deal with people in the community, and I knew how to relate. So that kind of saved me in a lot of situations that I may have encountered while I was on the job.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, they purposely make sure that you don't go to your own neighborhood, right?
Yes, you cannot go to your own neighborhood. And that would be difficult, because just say like if you went to your neighborhood and then something happened, and then you got to lock somebody up that you may have went to high school or junior high school. That's a lot on you also. I don't know, like maybe now that I was old in the job, I would be able to go back, but in the beginning, I don't think that would have been a great idea.
Yeah, no, not understanding how Queensbridge work. I don't think so. Like, I get it. I get it. And you got to think of the time period. Like, I probably wouldn't want to not to right now. No. With the crimes that's happening right now, I don't know.
Yeah, it was a little more difficult back then, I would say.
And then how do you also learn to keep your composure and keep calm in situations? You trained for that, or is that something you learn on the go, or both?
I want to say, like, just growing up in Queensbridge, and just being around a certain situation, I don't know, I just had it. I just knew how to keep my calm just keep calm as much as I could and try to engage the person and talking. But a lot of times you do learn that in the training and through the police academy. But some of the things that they were teaching, I had already knew. So I didn't feel like I was being taught. I felt like there's some things that I just knew. But then some people probably needed it because they may have been coming from a different background or a different area. So they may have needed it. That might have been something that they learned there. But I just felt like I already had it.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I totally felt that. Hey guys, I see some people I do know. Hey Arlene. Naima has said that she's happy for you. And Glenn, Glenn is retired from 24 years in the military. Thank you for your service, Glenn.
Yes, thank you, Glenn.
Stanley Furman, how you doing?
Oh, that's my
Hey, Shanette. All right. Hey, y'all. Love y'all for showing up. Thank y'all for supporting Miss Renee. Yes. Listen, this conversation, like I said, it's not easy at all. But we here for it. Here for it, and we got the right two sisters bringing this conversation forward.
That's right.
Please believe that. Please hit the button and share, family. Hit the button and share. Those of you on Instagram, listen, you about to lose your time. Okay. I'm ending on this note, but I'm gonna end after this question.
Okay.
How was it to be a female officer at your time? What was it like? That facial expression got me nervous. Okay.
I don't know. Why we can see everybody that's on here, right? So I actually had a friend, and I told him to chime in on this.
I was gonna say, don't say no names.
No, I'm not gonna say any names.
Okay.
One thing I do want to touch on is I had a social science instructor, and he was a Black guy, and he's actually related to the gentleman that plays on Abbott Elementary. He was the guy who played Everybody Hates Chris. His name was Tyler James.
Oh yeah. Okay.
His father was my social science instructor, and
wow.
And I didn't understand when I was in the police and when I was in the academy, because he was training us everything other than what was in the social science book. I was like, this stuff is not on the test. But social science was just common sense. So once I got the first test, I was like, oh, okay, I see what he's doing. I didn't understand at first. But he used to give us things to keep us safe on a job and dealing with those type of things. And then I had male friends that had went into the academy before I did, and they would reach out to me, and they know what's going on in the locker room, what was being said. So they will always try to tell me, like, hey, Renee, when you get on this job, there's going to be men coming at you. You got to make sure that that that's somebody that you may want to be in a relationship, because it can be really, really good. I've seen some people marry people that are on a job and it goes really well. And I've seen some people that get on a job and it just doesn't go well. And then
I was going to ask, is that allowed? In the education sector, they kind of, it's like, it's okay, but no one's promoting it. I'm going to put it that way, right? Because if it does go left at school, it becomes a problem. Yes. And so they actually prefer that people just don't. Like, go find your mate somewhere else outside of here.
But unfortunately, like, you work so many hours.
Yeah, you become close.
If someone that's at your household, they don't understand the hours, then that's where it becomes a problem. So a lot of times people do date on a job because of that. So while you're in a police academy, there's no fraternization, none at all. But once you come out of the police academy, you can fraternize, but then it's not looked at as well as if two people are in the same command.
Okay.
So if you work, say if I work, let's say 2-8, which is in Harlem, and then somebody works in the 3-2 precinct, that's okay. But when they work in the same command, it's usually not a good idea.
Okay.
So
any reprimandments for it, or?
Yeah, you can get. I mean, what would happen is if they find that the two people are in a relationship, a lot of times somebody would get transferred out, or that their hours wouldn't be the same. So somebody might work 7 to 3 in the morning, and somebody might work like 4 to 12 at night.
Okay.
To do that. But if it happened in a police academy during training, then you could get fired, you could get kicked out and be reprimanded for that.
Before you even get the job? Before you even start, rather?
Yeah, they don't want the instructors or people fraternizing while they're going through the police academy.
Okay,
But
that's
there's things that happen. Like people do get in relationships during that. I mean,
yeah, I know people are human. People are
yeah,
human.
yeah.
Listen, Instagram, I'm out. You got to come on to YouTube to catch the rest of this conversation. Escalator. I want to get to the real tea. So, all right. Now, you made it through the ranks up to lieutenant. That's to me that's a big deal. I'm
Yeah.
somebody who studied in government, and so, while I didn't go into law enforcement, I was into politics and at the UN, right? And so you're not going to the White House. The UN is the next best chapter
Wow. Yeah.
and higher, right? So I understand security clearances, all this type of stuff. It's a different world, literally.
Yeah.
And they I will say, and I'll say this publicly, limited respect for females, because even in that sense, I mean, now it's much better. But when I was coming up, you get stationed, they'll send you somewhere abroad. You could be stuck there for 2 years, can't see. They would rather fly your family out to you than you come home.
Oh, okay.
But they put you in high targeted zones. I guess like that's the equivalent to yeah, your Harlem. And you gotta work that out. And
Yeah.
so then they also put women, once you did your tour or whatever, then they want to put you at a desk versus
Mm-hmm.
giving you the respect of earning the badge and sitting at the political table with other
Mm-hmm.
leaders and stuff. And
Wow.
so, I mean, in my path, I was able to sit among a few presidents and all that stuff around my time. But I
Wow.
also understood that if I went further, where it was going to place me. So I say all of that to say you became lieutenant. Lieutenant. And in a time, I'm guessing, where, we still are fighting for women's rights out here in different
Yeah.
variety of ways.
Mm-hmm.
What was that experience like for you? Like, was it genuine? Was it hard?
So in the beginning, I want to say I was true to the heart of a patrol cop. I love working in the street. So that was one thing that they never stopped me from doing that, and I did that very well. But I noticed that as I began to move up and I became a supervisor and I started dealing with a lot of the upper brass, that became different because then they wanted things that I just wanted to come to work and do my job.
Right.
They had other agendas. So one particular time I got moved to an assignment and I took the assignment. I was like, okay, wow, this is a black CO. I'm a black female. I'm still young on the job. I passed the sergeant exam in the first 5 years of my career.
Wait. All right, I'll pause right there. So you don't know, but if you watch the show, then I have my Shatter the Glass buttons. And so when you drop something like that, just be prepared to hear the glass shatter.
Okay. For the first 5 years, I passed the sergeant's exam, and I moved up, and then I moved to a different command. I'm not gonna even name the commands. And well, let's take it one step back. So I became a street narcotics enforcement unit supervisor. Let me talk about that, because that is where we do all the observation for any type of narcotic drugs. And when I got that assignment, they didn't think that I can do that assignment. And they gave me a really hard time, a really difficult time. So bad that I had to leave. Like I had to call somebody and I was like, I had to get out of there. This is not working. They would take like half of my team from me, or they would give me an undesirable assignment or things of that nature. So that didn't really work out. And I'll be honest, I learned from that. That's when I learned that I had to be different. Like I had to supervise differently. And that became a little bit more strict on how I dealt with the police officers and people that were underneath my supervision. Some people didn't like that, but that's just how I realized I had to be, because at first I was just nice and like nonchalant and just letting things go. And then I realized like, hey, I'm not documenting things. I'm not doing some of the things that I need to do to protect myself. So I gave them that one, but I never let them get another one after that. I was like, okay. So when I moved over to a different command, which was, I think it was a 2A precinct at that point, then I went in there and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna be fair.
Right.
I'm gonna try to do the best I can by them, but I'm going to be a little bit more strict. And that's just how I supervise from there and on. So I try to tell people that when you go on jobs and you start seeing little signs of like some type of racism or sexism or something, like, you have to change. You have to change immediately, and then you have to be extra. You have to be there on time, and sometimes 10 minutes before or 20 or 30 minutes before. You have to make sure your uniforms are squared away. You have to make sure your cops are squared away. You have to make sure that you stay on top of everything. And that was the lesson that I learned. That was a lesson that I learned out of that. And I just continue to just supervise that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I got questions. I was thinking on topic, but I was just like, huh. I didn't even know that was something that had to be done within the department. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend that I know how police departments work. I don't.
Okay.
So, so not in that regard. But from the civil service side of things, of saying, okay, this is how you formally make a complaint. This is what you do, but not the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Other than I did date a detective, right? Where my husband at?
Look in the back.
Stay in the back. And he was somebody who I felt like he was a little sloppy on the job. He was a detective.
Okay. So he probably had some time on or something like that, right?
Yeah, and we met at a club. Don't judge y'all. Y'all just listening, all right? We met out, and this fool got drunk. But he had his tag on him.
Not a good one.
Yeah, okay. And he had his gun on him and stuff. And so the fool, we talking and stuff. And at first, I was definitely heavy on the party scene because I was into party promotion and stuff. And so I'm like, how you get cleared? Like, do you realize what you're doing? And are you here with somebody? Then, he pulled me to the side and was like, nah, I'm a detective. I'm like, yo, are you on the clock? Like, is this something that we need to know in this spot? You know what I'm saying? Because that's about health and safety, and I don't want my name going down for nobody. So he was like, nah, we good. And it was just, but then he was super cocky. And I was like, oh, is this a police thing? As I met more people, I was like, oh, y'all are tight. And y'all are team blue all day. Like, you'll have, so a situation occurred without me going into too far detail. He did get into an altercation with somebody, right? And so before they realized that he actually was another officer, thank God he had his tags on him. Okay. And so that stopped the situation of whatever he got into with this other dude. Then next thing I knew, the boys in blue, okay, decided to rally and support him in somewhat of the foolishness. And I was like, see, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
This right here is what I'm talking about. And we ain't talking about white cops versus black cops. We talking about team blue, period.
So one of the things that they do train you when you go through the police academy is that NYPD is the biggest gang in pretty much the world. We have, when I got on the job, I think the numbers was between 27 and 32,000 cops. They since have dwindled to maybe 24,000. So They do teach you that there is a commodity that goes on in the NYPD with blue, because we pretty much understand each other.
Right.
I want to say that predominantly most cops, they do a phenomenal job. Like, I have met amazing people, black, white, Spanish, everything, that have done really great work. But we do have some problems.
You see how you took that deep
gun is never a good thing. Like, I never went into a club with a gun. It just never goes right. So I'm sorry you had that experience.
Yeah, I'm gonna chuck it up to young and dumb, because we're young. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just kind of like, are you supposed to do that? I don't think you're supposed to do that. And we in danger. And I need to know if you on the clock. I just want to know if you on the clock. I don't want to be with you if you're on the clock. I want to be a part of nobody.
Hopefully they're not on the clock, but a lot
of people, he said that he wasn't, but at this time you done had a few shots. So, and then I'm like, I hope you really not, because you could blow cover because you intoxicated in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, things going forward, it wasn't that anymore, but that's how we met. And I was like, oh, what is happening? All right. So, anyways, I know about Team Blue.
Yes, yes.
What was it like? Uh, Before I asked that, there
Mm-hmm.
was a lot around stop and frisk
Oh, okay.
here in this city.
Mm-hmm.
What are your feelings about that?
I want to say, and probably might get some backlash for that. I think the stop, question, and frisk report is the best tool, one of the best tools that NYPD has. And the reason why I say, if it's used correctly, only
Okay.
if it's used correctly. If you start pushing cops to say, hey, I need 3 UF-250s in this area, or I need 5 UF-250s in this area, that's when it gets bad. But if you use it the right way, like if, say, for instance, there's a shootout and you got like 15 people running, but then they give you a distinct, a very detailed description of a person that's running, and that person fits the description, and you stop them, and they might be running in a certain way where they might be people have cell phones, so they holding their cell phones, or they might be running, have something in their pocket, and then you stop that person. It's a great tool to document that you stopped that person and what was the reason why you stopped that person, because you can then turn around and say that you stopped somebody and didn't and refuse their liberty to continue to move. So it's a great tool for that. But it gets bad if you ever try to put it on like a number basis. Like if you say I need 3 of these or whatever. But when it's used correctly, and the job has done a really great job, because I was integrity control officer before I retired. And that was one of the things that they were pushing. We would have meetings after meetings in regards to the stop, question, and frisk report. And I was the one that had to review it and then look at the cameras to make sure that the cops were actually doing what they needed to do. So it's always good when you have somebody that comes from like a community like Queensbridge or whatever. I just use Queensbridge
Right.
because that's where I come from, or that is in those positions, because then you're gonna get the best policing in that area, because I'm gonna make sure that my area is being policed correctly and that no one is being stopped when they shouldn't be.
And I was going to say, what are the real repercussions behind that? Because we hear about it a lot in the media with, oh, I mean, just amongst in our community, we'll put the air quotes around this person fit the description.
Okay.
When you find out that the person didn't fit the description, what is happening on the back end now? Because now I'm interested in knowing. Viewers, y'all could chime in on the comments. We can see some of your comments coming in through live. Like, what happens to you now if you find out this officer did the utmost in the wrong way, and they had no business stopping this person, and they didn't fit the description? What does that look like on the inside when going to a review unit?
So with that is, so right now there's cameras. There's every cop has to wear a camera. So you review the camera. You'll go back. I can go back to the 911 calls to make sure that everything lines up. If it doesn't, they would come to my office at that point, and we would sit down and we would try to retrain them, and then we will watch their behavior after that to see if it would continue. So there's a lot of things that come over. So if there's a 911 call that comes over, there is a transcript that comes from the 911 operator where I can go back in and I can see what someone called on, or what the person was allegedly wearing, whatever description that was given. I can go over that, and then I could look at the cameras. And then if things don't meet up, then I'll call them in the office and we'll sit down, and then we'll send them to retraining. And it's a possibility they can get sued from whoever was stopped. It's up to the person if they decide to file a civilian complaint report against that individual. So
how long is that process? Is it like a week of review, a month, 6 months of y'all reviewing?
Mm-mm. So as soon as that thing pops up on my feed, when I was working, it would come up automatically. I can see anything. There's something that you go in the system and it'll pop up all the stops. So if anytime somebody goes over the radio and said they stopped somebody or they have a mail stop, you have to do it. And because then I'm gonna look at the cameras, and then and then you can actually go down and just start doing your investigation. And I was in charge of all of that before I retired. So we were constantly calling people in and retraining them and getting them back on. And they didn't want to come to my office. It was like, oh no, we want to. So I had an assistant, and we would play good guy.
Good guy.
A lot. So he would call them in and he would try to talk to them. And then he was like, Lou, I ain't getting nowhere with this person. I was like, well, call them back. I'm in here. And then when they came in, they was like, I'm not going in. Huh? It's like, yeah, you're going to come in here. And we would have the hot seat in there, turn off the air conditioner, and be like, look at the video, and we want you to explain to us what it is that you were doing. So the job has done a tremendous job with doing that. Before it was like we didn't have cameras. You had to figure it out. There was things that were going on. So the cameras are like our best are the best thing. But the situation that happened in this is Michigan, right?
Yeah. No, the last one, I believe he's in Tennessee. It's sad because there's so many that
I know. I probably lost track, but I think it was Tyree Nichols.
Tyree Nichols was in Tennessee.
So him, I that hurt my heart. Every time I see from Eric Gardner to Tyree to I'm trying to think of, there's so many names. I watch it and it bothers me. And I think you and I was deciding to do this interview. And then we kind of I think we fell off a little bit where we didn't, there was no communication going, and nothing on your end or my end. It just things, life just happens. Mm-hmm. And when I seen this on TV, I was like, we got to do this interview. We got to make sure that we get the word out so people know how to react, what you should be watching. Because you got to remember, every time you see like this Breonna Taylor or Eric Gardner or Floyd, any of those things you're watching on TV, that creates a little bit of PTSD.
Yes.
So when you get them pulled over, the cop is not trained in psychology or anything like that. They're trained for the job. There's some people that have it. Like I have a psychology degree. I graduated from Hunter. I have that.
Girl, you better come through. I did not know that. Wait. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So you gotta. So the cop is like, when he pulls that individual over, there's a lot of things going on in that car, and there's a lot of things going on in the cop's mind. He or she doesn't know who's in that car, and the person that's in the car a lot of times doesn't know the officer.
Right.
But what hurt me so bad with that, what left me in tears, and I'll be honest, everyone, especially Floyd, I cried. What hurt me so bad with that is that there was so many officers there, and not one person said, hey, that's enough, or stop. Because anytime you're pulling someone over, there's a level of force. If I put my light on and you're driving, that's a level of force. I'm stopping you. I'm stopping you from your freedom. I'm telling you can't move because I'm pulling you over because I observed something. Yeah. So for them to say there was no reason for them to pull him over, and to commence with 12 officers, I'm not mistaken, to be involved in that, and not one person says stop. I feel like they was operating under something where there was no supervision there.
Do you think that there's a possibility some of this could have been personal for them to go to that extreme?
I don't know. I don't know. I can't really say, because there was another instance where I think the lawyer brought up that there was a guy who said he was going to get peace in driving a car, and they pulled him over and gave him a hard time also. So we don't really know until those facts are actually out. So I can't really speak on the behalf of, what they may have stopped him for, because nothing has come out. We won't know until like the court sessions and all that things start. But that was heartening, because when you're working in the street, so I started off as a single person post, but now we all have 2-man posts at least. Like everyone, no matter where you go, there's 2 cops there. And a lot of times when you're interacting, especially domestic violence and car stops, you have a partner, and when your partner kind of knows when you're getting irritated and you're not getting through to this person. A lot of times they'll tap you and be like, I got it. And then that person will move back, and the next person will go in and then try to like bring it down, and get some type of cooperation from the individual. But with that, it's like no one stopped it. Like no one. And I was like, what is going on?
So, and we just were in Georgia last week, and so on their news, I had it on at the hotel, and they were just making, and I'm putting air quotes, people don't come for me on this channel, okay? Air quotes. I do not know for sure. I'm putting that out there. So alleged that the young man may have knew one of the officer's ex-wives. And so I don't know, I'm waiting for them to confirm or deny if that plays a part into this case. They said they're going to investigate. So far it was still unfounding. But I also know that in these situations, people are scared to come forward and speak on both sides. And then you have the officer who did the tasing. Then you have the EMT workers. I mean, there was so many people, and I'll speak for myself. I could never speak for you. I feel like they all should go down, because at the end of the day, how could all of you be sitting there and watch this young man die? Like, y'all,
100%.
This was excessive for no reason. The boy is calling out for help, which is what all of them have done in these cases. And it's an abuse of power. And I think that what was the shocker is that people saw these as Black officers. And that's why I was in my conversation of talking about the guy I dated. I understood from him, Team Blue. You understand? And so, I looked at that situation and was like, Team Blue. Sadly enough, but this is what people do when they are camaraderie, like they know that they can go down, right? And then if this person doesn't, then you're dealing with this colleague in this hostile, it becomes a hostile environment for the coworkers.
Yeah. After a while, most co-workers, I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off, but after a while, most co-workers will start saying, hey, I don't want to work with that person. It's a problem. You're like, wait a minute, what's going on? But that was just too many officers there. 12 out officers, EMT workers come. And then you see the same thing with Eric Gardner with I think the EMT, they came there and they didn't do their job. And it's just so disheartening when you're watching it, because, I have a grandson and I know you have a son, and you got to constantly like train them and tell them, like people at work who are not Black, they were like, you gotta. So I think it was, who was it? De Blasio went on the news and was like, I gotta have a conversation with my son, and everybody went crazy at work. And I'm like, you don't understand that. We all have that conversation with our family members. Like, you in a car, I would tell him, if we get in the car and somebody's a cop is pulling us over, I want you to put your hands here, and I don't want you moving. You don't move. And then I said, there's a certain way that you have to act when you're being pulled over. And I'm going to give you a prime example. One time I'm going to work, and upstate, I live upstate. So every right you can make a red. And sometimes I do it in the city when I'm not supposed to do it. But it's bad. I got caught on camera one time. I had to pay the bill, so I stopped. But I'm rushing to work. I'm late. And I make the right on red. And I see the lights in the back of me, and I'm going, shit. But I have my gun on me, and it's in my holsters on my side, and my ID is in the bag in the passenger seat, like on the floor. So I pull over, I turn the car off, I immediately pull the windows down, I put the lights on, I put my hand on the steering wheel. The cop comes over, he says, license and registration. I say, hi, officer. I'm a lieutenant. I work right up the block. I'm on a job. That's, what we say.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to reach for my wallet. It's in my bag right here. And I want to let you know that I'm armed. And they go, okay. So I can see the guy on the other side. He doesn't hear me, but I see his hand on his gun. And I'm like, holy shit. So Renee moved real slow. And I know that the cop that's on my side, I know he got his hand on his gun, because that's kind of, the most dangerous part of the job is car stops and domestic violence. So I commence to go in my bag. I get my ID, and then I show him the ID. He takes it, and he goes, well, where do you work? I said, I work right up the block. I'm Lieutenant Lee, and I'm on my way to work. And he kept asking me that I work in the 4-5 precinct. I'm like, no. But I'm still looking at the officer on the side a little bit, and he still has his hand on his gun. And I'm like, when are they going to relax? Now I'm scared as shit because I'm like, all they got to do is just say gun, and they can light up my car.
Right.
And then later on, they'll say it's friendly fire, and I don't see nothing friendly but fire.
Right. Like, you know, well, I got some military friends too, and I'm like, ain't nothing friendly about that damn situation. Like, what are we talking about?
And I'll be honest, I was scared as mess, but I had to, like, eventually he calmed down, he relaxed, and then he was like, okay, he gave me my ID. But when I got to work, I was scared as shit. And so the guy that drives me, I told him the story. He was like, you still look frazzled. And I'm like, yo, they could have killed me.
Yes.
A gun. I do have a gun, but I'm a police officer and I work right up the block. And no matter how many times I told him, he kept asking me, did I work somewhere else? And I'm like, no, I just told you I work right up the block. I'm rushing to work and I'm on the job. That's what I told him. And I wasn't being disrespectful or anything. And then eventually gave me my ID.
I got questions because I'm listening and feel like my heart is tightening up just listening. Mm-hmm. So you tell them who you are, where you work, and he's not hearing it. Was he old? Was he of a different race? Like, I'm trying to figure out what did he think? Was you smiling when you said it? You know, maybe so you was lying or something. Like, I'm trying to figure out.
I don't know what it was, but it wasn't a good experience. I didn't feel good about that. I know when I left, I was just like, when I got to work, I was like, the person that drove me, I don't want to use his name, but right. He would drive me. He was like, that must have really frazzled you. He said, look at your face. It's like, dude.
Hell yeah.
I had to decompose. I went in the locker room and I was like, what the hell? I'm in the locker room like, what the hell was that?
Because you're somebody with a badge who's going to work, who's legally licensed to carry, and it still could have happened to you.
Yes. So you got to remember that even though we're Black and we're on the job, we're still Black.
Damn. So wait, so you didn't answer. Was he white? Was he Latino? Was he?
I remember he was light skinned. I can't tell you exactly what nationality either one of they were, because at that time I'm just looking at, like, one has his hand on the gun and then the one that's on me, they're flashing a light in the car.
Oh God.
That's not the first time. I had another incident where that happened very similar to that. So we get pulled over and we're under the same scrutiny that any civilian is under, but just remember, we have a firearm and they could just say, oh, she had a gun, and light our car up. And then they have to explain it later.
Oh my God, that is so crazy.
Yeah, I think it happened to me twice.
All right, I'm gonna ask a question. You can answer it or give me the look. Have you ever pulled rank on somebody in those type of situations? Because I just feel like I would have had to listen. I told you 5 times. Mm-hmm. This is who I was and what I had, and you still kept pressing. Who's your department? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So the issue with that is that when the cop is in uniform and you get pulled over and you are on the job also, regardless of your rank, the person that is in uniform that's pulling you over, they're in charge of the scene at that point. You can't just like jump out of the car and be like, I'm a lieutenant. No, you can't do that. And it's hard to really pin out because they can always say, hey, we were just trying to investigate to make sure she is who she is. You know, so there's all types of lingo that they can use when those situations are happening. Damn. So, yeah.
Can't even win when you join the game. Like, what? I'm trying to figure this out because now it makes me really push the question on, does representation matter? Because if that's the case,
it does. It does matter. It does matter because when you're dealing with people in the community, wherever it's at, a lot of times you can relate a little bit. You can say, hey, you know, there's certain things, lingo that we use, and we can use that to our advantage, and sometimes you can calm a situation down. I always feel like when women get to the job, we like calm it down.
Yeah.
You know, I don't mean nothing against men, but sometimes they have these super egos where it's like, I'm in charge, and we like just calm, like, look, we're just here to evaluate the situation, see what it is, and a lot of times we can calm down. I've calmed a lot of things just by speaking to people and relating, and I've had situations like that.
Was there, well, besides that one, I was going to ask, was there ever a time you felt like you did yo, I may not make it home? Besides that one.
Trying to think. There's a lot of times, like when I was
Wow.
young as a rookie and I was out there solo and I was doing interiors solo by myself. You know, we go to the top of the building, we check the roof out, and then we come down. So when you're going up that last landing before you hit the roof, you don't know what's up there. Sometimes you stumble on somebody, you know, you stumble on someone's there. Sometimes there's a drug transaction going on. Sometimes there's sexual things going on. You just don't know what you're going to stumble on when you're going up there. So a lot of times when I was, you know, young on the job, I was solo posts. Wow. I've had situations where I don't know. I just feel like I was blessed. God was always watching me because there's people. I didn't. Sometimes I wasn't thinking. I just wanted to do my job and just be very, very efficient at it. And I wanted to make sure that the people in the community was getting the proper policing. Right. So that was really at my heart, and that's why I continue to do some of the things that I did. But it was dangerous. It was very dangerous. There's some of the things now I look back, especially while I'm having this conversation. I'm like, oh God, what was I thinking? And now you're looking at it, you're like, what are you thinking?
Nah, I'm just like, and you did it for 24 years. So you know what I'm saying? Like, again, for the longevity of it. But then I can see that it's stressful. I'm stressed just listening. Listen, I wasn't even there. I wasn't even there. Rhonda said, yeah, well said, well said. Muriel said, yes, very nervous. Okay. Because I'm just thinking of the weight that you must carry every day on it. Or maybe you don't. Maybe there's a way of keeping yourself together and not holding on to the weight. Today's a new day. I'm doing my job this new day. I mean, talk to me about the mindset. What kind of mindset did you have to have?
So in the beginning, it was like, okay, I wanted to save the world. I was, and I wasn't like a super buff at it. Like I didn't come home, and a lot of people didn't hear about like my trials and tribulations while I was going there because I just did my job and I just came home. But I think after 9/11 hit, that's when I think I started to feel a little crash. I remember one day, and I don't know if my friend is on here, I hope she is, but she's a licensed therapist now. And I just remember one day after 9/11, that's what really scared me. That just took me right there. I just remember going to my sister's house like after 9/11 and only being able to be there for like 2 hours and then had to come right back to work. That scared the mess out of me, what was going on during that time. So I remember being in a scooter, and we had like a 3-wheel scooter. I was licensed to drive one of those. And I felt like I was just racing. And I didn't know what that feeling was. And I remember telling my friend, who also is a psychology major, she said, you got anxiety. And I was like, oh, no, there's no mental illness. And I was like, all right, I got to stop racing.
Oh my God.
And it continued to creep up all the way until it was time for me to retire.
Yeah. Wow. That's deep.
Yeah.
And I guess I would say it too, just for like teachers and stuff too. Anybody who's been in traumatic experiences, you know, seek the professional guidance and support for that. I don't even take that lightly.
Yeah.
And get someone that you trust to confide in, because I've seen situations too where it went completely left and it was just like, you know, you're violating the trust of this person.
Yeah.
And so on sensitive matters, definitely find someone that you trust.
Yeah.
So, all right. So hold on. I'm about to go. I'm gonna go a little heavier. What is your take on defund the police? I mean, People were out there defund the police, defund the police. And I had friends who was out there defund the police, right? And I'll get into these arguments because I'm like, I'll let you share on it, and I'll say my 2 cents after. But what's your take on it?
So my take is this: during the riot, like I was at that point, I was a lieutenant at that point, and I had a lot of seniority. So everybody else was going. I was the last one to go down there, and I felt the community. I felt their cries. I just wanted to give up then, because after that Floyd thing happened, it was just too much. And a lot of people that were on the job did not understand that. So I feel like a lot of money was taken away from other programs and then give it to the police department. And then that stuff suffered. So like mental health issues, the school education, after school programs, and you kept bulking up the police department where the crime wasn't as bad as it was when we first got on. So I felt like not defund them and give them away, but we got to find a way where there's a balance. The education of teachers, the time that they put in, like right before this interview, you're still doing work that you're probably not even being compensated for. There's a lot of things that go into teaching that I'm not really, I don't really know. I have cousins that are teachers, and I love listening to their stories. And sometimes they don't like to talk about it. I'm like, no, come on, let's talk about it, because I want to hear about it. So that's how I felt. I felt like the police department was bulked up on a lot of money, and some of it needs to be spread out a little bit more. So what they did was they cut the overtime, and cops was fuming. They were like, what is going on? And like people who were doing administrative work, like at their desk, they wasn't getting no overtime. And guess who was in charge of stopping that?
Oh God, no.
So I was definitely like the villain. And they were
like here she comes.
Like, it's not coming from me. They gave me the assignment to do this. So what I did is when they came in and they had the meeting to say how they were cutting the overtime, I had to bring all the supervisors in so that they can chime in on that meeting. So they knew it wasn't coming from me. And even with that being said, he still thought it was me. I'm like, I don't got no control over it. But people in the building knew how I felt about the protesters. Because people were saying, why are they protesting? I'm like, you don't see what's going on. You don't see how you guys are still bulking up these cells with nonsense arrests. You don't see. I understood where they were at with that. And if anybody thinks that those protests didn't work, you're sadly mistaken. Because there's been a lot of internal change inside of the police department. They're doing a really good job with a lot of things that they've done so far. Like,
well, speak on it. I would say, what did they change? Because,
So the thing is, we monitor the cameras a lot more. Okay. We will monitor the cameras a lot more. We have meetings every month. We had to pull in officers that were problematic. I was responsible for letting go cops. They started firing them. So they would fire them downtown. Being that was in my command, I would have to be the one to be like, I got to take this. I need that. I need this. And I was in charge of that. So they've done a really great job, like internally. You may not really see it, but inside we felt it. So where they're at right now, I couldn't tell you. I know some of the overtime has come back because they don't have that many officers like they used to. So
yeah, thanks a lot, Eric Adams.
So they don't have it. And as far as the firearms that, which I know he's been trying to like really bulk up the police with that, is that is something that I don't understand either. So.
I got question marks all around that, brother. And I just found out this weekend that he was from 40, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that. But there was elders who said to me, because I'm heavy in the community, I was like, he's not it.
Okay.
And I'm standing with the elders because I don't feel like they have anything to lose or lie about. They 70 and 80 years old, so they understand. It's
so
either.
What is it that you're feeling?
I feel like, one, he is not as organized as one needs to be.
Okay.
Two, how I think that, especially even with, YouTube, I don't know, can we say the V word? I'll say the jabs. I don't feel like he handled that correctly at all either,
Mm-hmm.
which is what made us lose a lot of officers and a lot of teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then now you want to come out yesterday, like, hello, the court's already ruled on this to have people getting back in their jobs. And now you're sitting there talking about people got to apply. They already had the jobs. Like, it's a nightmare on Elm Street. That's how I look at it.
Okay.
And I just think that there lacks some checks and balances, at least in my educational world.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of funding has come through. I don't know if people know that or not.
Okay.
And so, I question some of the motives behind the people who got access to the funding and how it gets distributed on certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, I look for accountability with things. Are we making progress? Is this bettering the stance for our children? Are they benefiting from some of these things or not? Like last summer was a nightmare. I'm all for give the funding, right?
Okay.
But have money with no plan is reckless.
Yes, that's true.
That's even in your personal life. If you got extra $100 in your pocket and don't have no plan for it, your bills is paid, you ain't got nothing to worry about, food is in your fridge, you can go out and go spend that $100 easy with no thoughts about it.
Yes.
And I feel like that was the same scenario that happened last summer in the education sector. Everybody was so excited about the summer programs. And so I'm like, yeah, okay, this is good. But then they were short-staffed. They had no plans. You still had groups of kids sitting in auditoriums and all that stuff. And so sometimes you're up high and you're making these decisions, but you have no idea. You're looking at taking something macro, but not looking at it on micro.
Yeah.
And so you have things it was just chaotic. And I was just over it. And I was just like, here we go again. Another fool. Like, you know what I mean?
I'm about the jab. I know you're totally against it. I know you did.
Yeah, man. It's so many things.
I got the jab.
Listen.
So the thing with that is that it was just so many people. Like, you see how wide the screen is? Yeah. Like, it was our screen was just with everyone that had died from COVID.
Yes.
And remember, NYPD is a business. So anytime somebody dies, then that's an insurance policy and things that kick in. So you having so many people die, like, what do you do? Yeah. When it's 24,000 people. At one point when COVID came out, we lost like at least 80% of our precinct. I thought I was going to have to go out there and start answering jobs. That's how bad it got.
Oh my God, no.
So if you wasn't on the internal part of it, you just looked at the outside, like, why is he forcing me? It was just so many people dying. So I understood. A lot of people didn't like it. And I get it. Like, everybody's entitled to their opinion and how, we have free will. God gave us free will. And you have the right to say, hey, I'm not with the jab. It's not for me. I got the jab because I've seen so many people getting sick. And I was just like, I didn't know how it was going to affect me until I got it. And it lasted for one day and it was gone. But there's some people who got it and they were just, with so many people, they were just, yes. And it was some people that had never even been sick before. And they was just, and they didn't get it. So the department was like, we got to do something.
Yeah, nah, and I get it. And it was a response out of fear. So, and I can totally have compassion towards that. Right. But what I didn't have compassion for was the lack of understanding on the opposite end, in the capacity of, wait, hold up now, let's get more data around it. There was so much denial. It was so much politics around it. I didn't want to go there, Renee. There's so much politics around it that now it's like, are we still talking science? Or are we talking numbers for something else?
Oh, okay.
Okay. And so again, that there was so much funding coming out for different things.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at it like, well, if you don't do this, then you no longer have a job. Well, wait a minute. Now, 6 months ago, I was essential. I mattered. And it was no jab out here. Yeah. And you didn't mind throwing me to the wolves.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
I
And
just
so
he didn't know what he just was placed with the amount of numbers and cops that he was losing. Imagine going to all those funerals.
no, I mean I couldn't. Just in our community alone, there was so many, you
Yeah.
know, and I mean, and it was happening like rapid fire. So yeah, I'm not knocking that, but I definitely have to stand on the wings of, listen, my body, my choice. Let us figure this out.
Yeah.
Because if I was in here surviving doing damn near 24-hour shifts for you, and you ain't think about it then, hold on here, let's have a conversation. But people weren't having conversations. It was like, yo, do this or you're out. And
Yeah.
it was like, well, wait a minute, what happened to the sentiment? I thought I meant something to you. Like, this relationship is going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Um,
There was a lot of girls that went and got it, and then there was some that just waited to the last end because nobody really knew what it was. And I understand. I try to like understand both sides and not.
yes, but here's the thing, though. Now you done forced everybody, and now there is scientific data that shows. Guess what? People still was getting it. People still dying. Now people having heart attacks and stuff as repercussions from it. Everybody be safe. I ain't judging nobody because I get it. People had to put food on their table. People had livelihoods to maintain. Hey, Latricia. And so, you know, there's different things that's happening out here where we need to consider. And so I'm never going to judge from that point, and I'm never mad at the average person. Who I'm mad at is the politicians and the so-called scientists, like me and Dr. Fauci. We could never be in the same room. Me and Dr. Fauci.
You gonna have the Dr. Fauci too?
I want Dr. Fauci. Everybody else is like is minuscule. You don't even matter. I want Dr. Fauci because you know that you took funding and you guys created that lab. Okay, you funded the lab, and these people had this leak. I remember the night that the plane came in from the tarmac. You know, I'd be up late. I ain't have that. And so it came right in, and they're like, "Oh, we got to keep everybody on the plane. They're sanitizing down this plane." I knew then in January something was off.
Okay.
Something was off. Yeah. And so again, I have friends in some places, and I said after everything was in the midst of it, I want to say April, May. I'm talking to my global friends, and I'm like, yo, how come we're not seeing anything at the international court level? All presidents should be upset by this. They all lost money, people, and you know, it's destroyed economies, it destroyed societies. What are we doing? How come it's not at a bigger table? But I ain't gonna dive in too deep on that. Listen, if you know me personally, you know I went on a whole rant on my Facebook page.
I watched your Facebook. I be like, oh, she going in on the jab.
Because I understand, like, and I have some great friends in great places. Shout out to my peoples that are even in the White House and affiliated to that level of security. They get it, and so they also know. And then there's some people who don't.
Freezing up. Well, I think she froze up. So.
Oh no, I'm still here.
Still here, okay.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even realize. I just seen the spinning wheel on you first.
Oh, you did.
I know that there's people who make decisions, and there's people who got to carry them out.
Yeah,
that's what I learned at the UN, and it goes real high. And so I always look at people in our community too. One, we do need to get more involved in policies, because that's what's shaping the laws, even around the officers. If we're unhappy with how things are going, you got to know what rooms to make the noise in. Two, that anything outside of Democrat or Republican is just stupid, because at this point, when you get to the level of White House, it's one house.
Yes.
And so it's country over party, just like it's Team Blue, or for my Marines. Well, I won't chant their stuff out. I ain't gonna put their business out, but there's a camaraderie around that. And so things you know what I mean? There's things that come before those things. And so I just like to have our people more educated in the space, so that we know what time it is and how to protect our communities as best. Because trust and believe, other people are doing that for their own.
Yeah, we always got to have those conversations, especially with young boys that we have in the house, like constantly constantly talking to them at a very early age. You can't wait till they get like 16 because then they think they know everything. So you have to constantly be talking to them as they're growing up, not to like scare them or make them afraid to go outside, but just enough for them to get home.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, like, if you're getting pulled over by the police, or I tell my grandson, there's a badge number and there's a shield there. You know, make sure you can remember that. If you can't get anything, get the name. There's a number on a police car. If you're being pulled over, you feel like there's something wrong, there's a number on the police car. You can use that for your advantage also. So
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because I was going to ask you, what are some ways that we can keep safe? Like, your story got me scared. I'm like, she done told him she was the lieutenant. Okay, she the lieutenant. Are you listening?
Yeah. So that's one of the things is like, I always teach people, you got to make yourself as less threatening. I mean, because our skin is just threatening to some people just off the bat. So you have to make yourself as less threatening as possible. Like, you can't be moving around the car. If you're in your car and you smoke a weed, 9 times out of 10, they're not even thinking about that. A lot of times you're getting pulled over, either probably for a driving violation or something else. But you just calm down, put your hands on the steering wheel, try to put as much light in the car as you can, and just let the officer know where you're reaching. Like, hey, my ID is over here. A lot of times keep your ID at the top of the flap that's in your car. I forgot what's it,
the visor.
Yeah, the visor that's in your car. That's what I always tell people. I mean, I didn't do it that day, but those are some things you want to do. And you just got to be calm. They have that number, they have that badge. Our civilian complaint report is not like what it was with Tyree, where people were making complaints down in that area and it's not being heard. Our internal affairs is, if you call them, and all of that stuff is recorded. So if you call them and they don't act, they know they're gonna get fired. So they know they have to act on every allegation. Sometimes it's just the officer doing their job because you don't really understand how that they're supposed to, do their job. So sometimes it may just pan out to be nothing, and sometimes it may be something. It might be that one cop who is getting in trouble repeatedly for doing things, and you might have that tip and skill to be like, "Hey, it's time to get rid of this guy." So when you make that complaint, they be like, "Wait a minute, we got 15 complaints on this guy." Like, they'll start looking at him and put him on some type of temporary probation.
So I was going to ask that, because how many complaints does it take? It's like, how many cookies in the cookie jar? How many complaints does it take for an officer to be removed or at least benched? Is it case by case?
That part is hard. The job hasn't really dealt with that.
Ugh. So it's like the priest. Sorry if you're Catholic. I ain't trying to offend you, but
what they do is they'll continue to send that. NYPD is known for their training. They're really big on training. People come all over the world to see NYPD's training. So they will continue to train this individual and say he or she is a good person. And sometimes we like, no, they're not. Like, there's no training, but there's a process that has to continue on. And the job can at some point come in and say, hey, we foresee you as not being good, with policing. So we see that you're going to be a problem later on and they can't fire you. But a lot of times that person just gets shifted from different command to different command to different command.
Like the dirty little priest. Sorry again if you're Catholic, but that's the truth. The priests get moved from different parishes after they've been after they got caught red-handed. Well, so wow.
It has to be like something. Has to be like something very like the thing with Eric Garner. Eventually, they got rid of that cop. A lot of us was happy that he was gone. We watched this guy like practically choke this guy out on the floor, pushing his head down into the floor. I watched the tape, disheartening, and eventually they got rid of him. There's some people that are doing some things on the job and they do get rid of them. So all that track record does count, but there's some things where it's not leveling up. And this person is getting a lot of discipline. And I feel like sometimes the job is still a little slow on that end. But like I said, it's 24,000 cops. And it's just sometimes hard to supervise all. But we have to make sure that we get home safe.
Yeah.
It's not so much of fighting that person in the street. There's a reason. There's a reason we have a shield number. There's a reason why police officers, I'm not longer there, but there's a reason why they have a shield number and a name and numbers on a car. So that if you don't at least get the name and the shield, you should be able to at least get the number of the car. And then that can kind of narrow it down from there. And then they can do a proper investigation.
Yeah.
And even the unmarked cars, they have license plates. And those license plates reflect back to NYPD. So even if you get that, then hopefully that should suffice for you to start. So NYPD can start the investigation.
Yeah. I just hate that because then it's like something can literally be extreme before something is actually done, which is why everyone's so tensed up when the situations occur. And so, you know, I mean, I don't know. I ain't feeling too positive today. I'm feeling kind of like it's a little situation here because then, you know, I don't know. What's your opinion on how can we make, well, you can't, it's personal at that point because I was going to say, how do we make each other feel comfortable in the presence? I mean, obviously, if you know you out here doing something wrong, you're doing something wrong. That's different. If you commit your crime, you commit your crime. But for the average person who's not committing a crime and they just happen to be in circumstance, how do we keep calm when we have a media that has us get so riled up?
Yeah. So the more you, like I said before, the more you watch these videos, the worse it gets. Because everyone who may get stopped by the police officer, they're gonna feel like they're in danger of losing their life. So I see these actions take place like all the time on TV, and then it's okay to question like, "Hey, why did you stop me?" or whatever. But to get into a full blown argument with the police officer, then he or she is always going to win. They're in charge. They're in charge at the scene at that point. It's best to get away with your life. So you take that name and that shield number. And another way we can feel a little bit more safer around police officers is that when they have these meetings in a community, you go. You know, then there's sometimes there's cops there. You get familiar with them. There's police officers. I don't know if he's on here, but Trent, they do this basketball thing with the kids. They have police officers that go pick up the kids so that they get familiar with them. Yeah. That's another way, because then when you know Officer John and our Officer John knows Janae, oh, this is Janae. I know she's a teacher over here. And then his height and alert will come down a little bit, and then so should yours. So you really have to get involved. And if you don't have community council meetings, then you should go into your local precinct every once in a while. I mean, even if you don't like somebody, you could just bring them some coffee, say, hey, how are you doing? You guys have a great day. And then they will remember you also. Yeah. So it's best to really get involved. But don't think for 1 second, anybody on this, because I'm a lieutenant, that I don't go through what you will go through as a civilian. I go through
that to me is crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah, we go through it too.
That just oh man, I'm mad. When my girl said she was a lieutenant, you were supposed to hear her the first time. The second time. I ain't seen even the second time. Man, that's just so deep.
I can't get into Eric Adams because remember when he got voted in, I was leaving. So I don't really know his style of leadership with the police department. But what I can speak on about him is that he was one of many that started the 100 Black Law Enforcement. So we have organizations that are inside our police department that support people that look like us. And we have what is called 100 Law Enforcement. We have what is called NOBLE, which is National Organization of Black Law Enforcement. And then we have something that's called the Guardians.
But wait. Now, see, now I'm going to challenge you because those cops in the Tyree Nichols case looked like him. And so now if we have this Black leadership of enforcement, I don't know the full name of how you just call it.
Just NOBLE.
If we have NOBLE in their area, what does that mean? Oh, I wish I could play a clip. I don't know exactly the marker on it, but there is a guy. Oh God, I'm mad. I can't think of his name. He was a brother. He has a podcast here on YouTube as well, and he was like, "This is what happens when you have women lead, and these black men probably was only raised by their moms." I was so angry. I wanted to throw something literally at my TV, and was like,
"So everybody in there was raised by a single parent."
Right. You don't even know that for a fact, sir. And then how you insulting that woman, lieutenant and captain, that's there. You don't know her style of leadership and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know all of the particulars yet. Once those come out, then cast judgment. But it's too early to jump down that.
I don't mean to cut you up, but I feel this is how I feel. I don't know it to be true. I feel like someone in that police station, department, however they operate, knew that those cops were acting that way because they felt very secure and they felt very comfortable with what they were doing. Nobody was looking over their back. And it's just alarming too, because I think that's a community over there. And this guy is screaming and crying and no one came out. So I'm just like, I that's the part I couldn't get. I was like, this is not making sense. So people are trying to fill in the blanks like, oh, he was messing around with somebody's woman. Everybody in their mind is trying to put the piece because it doesn't make sense. Because 12 people allow a guy to get beat up that bad and everyone show up and no one heard?
No one heard. Then the other part is too, I was upset because I thought it was, use your words nicely, Yanni. I found it rather interesting yet careless to release that video on a Friday. And I say that because people are no longer, it's a Friday, you release this, people are going to be home for the weekends. It's an opportunity for a community to turn all the way up and destroy itself. And while I understand key parts they felt were already taken care of on their end, from the district attorney's side, I just thought it was frivolous to do that on the weekend, because I'm like, people are home, people are going to see this video, they're going to be upset, hurt, people are going to be looking for a way to let that anger out.
So it was released on Friday at what, 8 p.m., right? So most people are going out on a Friday, they're gone. They're out hanging out. They just had a long week. Trust me, they strategized that. They were like, and then the whole thing was.
She said that they did. They lieutenant actually came out. She spoke and said that they did.
Probably put and this was police departments all over. They all were like, what's a good date, time to release this video? And they made sure that they were stacked with every police officer that they can possibly have that may have had a day off or whatever. So they had to make sure that they had everybody on deck with that. They don't just release something like that. The reason they took so long is because they wanted to make sure that they had enough police officers working. They will order everybody in on overtime to make sure that doesn't happen. But most people, Friday gets here, long day of work, they're tired. They probably not looking at the news. They're in a bar somewhere, maybe drinking, whatever. That's probably what that was. So I understood it when I said, I already know what this is. But they made sure that they were staffed. They made sure they had every boot on deck with that.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, do it Monday. These people are going to be home for the weekend. By the time, I don't know. But luckily, I think that I'm hoping that some policies get changed at the federal level and then pushed down to the state levels and counties.
I don't think that's going to work.
You don't think so? No?
It may help a little bit. What the job really needs is when you have those type of units, that there is some therapy that they go through. Because how can I say, that grind that's on those officers when they're in that position is a lot. You're looking at, and so not only are people dealing with PTSD from watching Tyree, the cops deal with PTSD from watching other cops get shot and killed.
Right.
So they're on heightened alert, and they know what they're looking for. And in one bad flinch or one person moving around, they know that they can get taken out that quick. So not only are people dying in the street, but cops get killed also.
Right.
So with that in hand, that I think that when you have those units, that there should be some level of therapy that the cops go through. And it should be somebody that maybe that's retired from the job, or somebody that's not really too associated with a job. And then they have to just sit down. And if they go in there and they just pick out an animal and just sit there and don't say nothing, okay. But it'll be a good thing for them to have that conversation and how they're feeling and what they're going through.
Do you guys go, well, not you, because you're retired. But is there a process to check people's mental health before they become officers?
So you go through a psychological exam and an oral interview with a licensed clinician.
Okay.
And they ask you a series of questions, and then they go over the thing. One of the things that always would make me laugh and make fun is that they would ask you to draw a house. People would draw a house, they would put curtains on there. They actually draw a house and a tree. People would draw a tree with squirrels coming. A lot of people would get eliminated off the bat, because if you put curtains, that means you're hiding something. So this is so you go through it once, but you never go through it again. And you should go through it. I do therapy. I do online therapy. I started off once a week after I retired. My daughter suggested that I should do it, and I do it. I go once a month now because I kind of just let everything out already.
Right.
I told you when I left, I was dealing with a level of anxiety. So I do it. And it's been very, very helpful with getting that anxiety down. Like, I know to go to maybe go to pool, go to swim. There's just other things, mechanisms that I put in place. So if I just feel it creeping up, I know what to do to handle it. But before I didn't. So I'm quite sure that there should be some therapy that police officers get. They've gotten better when cops are going to like traumatic jobs where somebody got killed, shot, cop, or anything. They do now send them down to a therapist or a counselor that's on a job, and they go through those feelings with them. So they did start that. But they don't want to make it mandatory, because then it may shine a light on more things of people they hire. Because you got to remember, the amount of money that the cops get when they first start out, it's nothing. You can't live in New York City making that money. So you get what you pay for. If your pay is not that good, you're not going to get the best of the bunch. People are like, I can't afford to live off of that.
Right.
And then it said another thing is, like I said, it would shine a light on a job like, oh, you got a lot of cops with like some mental issues. So I think it's very necessary to do it. And anybody that retires from that job, you definitely should do a little therapy, because we suffer from PTSD because we see a lot of death. And we see a lot of it to the point where we even get numb from it. Like somebody can be very emotional, but just look at them and be like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, because
wow,
you have to go to, like, say, like, I think the first year I was on a job, I had to go to this lady. They found her dead in the house, and she had been there for weeks. There was maggots coming out of her body. Imagine going into that. The smell gets in your nose. It's in your clothes, and you see that after so many times over and over and over again. And then you go into a job, a mail shot, and you get there and a person actually has a bullet in their head. So after taking in so much of that, you have to do therapy. Anybody that leaves that job and don't do it, I commend you. But me, I went and got it because I want to enjoy my pension. And so I'm like, I want to make sure I have my sanity. I want to make sure, I'm doing well for to be there with my family. It's very important to me. So you have to do it. You got to make sure, you go to the doctor once a year or whatever. When you get sick, you get blood work, you check on that, right?
Yeah.
You got an ache or pain, you do that. But how often do you actually go sit down with somebody and tell them exactly what you may be thinking or how you're feeling and what you're going through? And a stigma with that. So when I first realized I had anxiety, my friend pointed out, it was like bad. But now it's like, it's starting to be okay, because it's like promoted on every network and on every TV.
Yes.
you should do it.
No, that, and I do want to open that up, that I feel like more people of color, we need it. There's so much around us, um all the time, and
Yeah,
these stories keep happening all the time, and
yeah,
not just in these situations. If you do live in urban areas right now, crime is very weird happening in different places. And so if you even seen that, now you, or you didn't experience it, but you saw it on our local news, like when I seen the old lady um get assaulted on the platform, she's just sitting there waiting for the train, I tensed up. And I'm like, if I have the opportunity to drive my grandmother to where she needs to be, I'm doing it,
mm-hmm.
because I don't want that happening to her.
Yes,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? And so now there becomes this little spirit of fear on just living your everyday life, because now it's like I'm scared to go take the train.
yes.
And
Yeah,
she'll sit there
and I told my mom, like, don't go out. I'll come down and take you, but she goes out anyway.
anyway.
She's like, I'm on 34th Street. I'm like, what?
And so, it I think we are in a different time with certain things that's happening, and 2020 has pushed everyone to this uncomfortable zone,
Yeah.
where, yeah, it is high and intense on anxiety for different things. Hell, if you have back pain, you already got an attitude, you already stressed out just from that. So I can't even imagine someone who's living with chronic pain, then you in fear of going outside to get to your appointment to where you need to go, or you got family members that's stressing you out. There was a lot of, I can only imagine the domestic violence cases that probably came in when everybody was shut in.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of that.
Like, like, take your ass home. Like, go look somewhere
He
else.
was out in the strip club. I went to one joint. Like, he was out in the strip club. I don't know if he got COVID, and I don't want him in my house. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I gonna deal with this? Like, he's on the lease. I can't tell him to leave. You try to like, listen, can you just go somewhere and just go sit down with a friend for a little thing until things calm down? And he was like, you know what? I got a friend. I'm gonna go see. I said, yeah, can you go do that? Just let things calm down and then come back, and then hopefully y'all can talk it out. So, like, I can't kick the person out. What do you do?
Yes. And so I look at that and I'm just like, people are tensed.
Yeah.
Tensed. I know a lot of people who are in the medical fields, the things that they saw being in the hospitals, tensed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been telling them, go talk to somebody about that as well, because you guys need that.
Yeah.
And then if not, people are just running from the job, like, F that job, I'm out. I know a lot of people who was like, I'm retiring now. And I'm like, oh.
I don't mean to cut it, but I didn't leave because I was disgruntled. I really enjoyed being on that job. I had some amazing time doing that job. There's places that I would have never went. Like, have you ever been to the Ball Drop, like New Year's Eve on 42nd Street?
Yes, I have.
So you're one.
I know.
Never went until I got on the job. I've never been there. What about the that Labor Day parade that they have in Brooklyn? You've been there. Oh, damn.
My dad be
there. Questions for you. So there's like things that I would have never been to. Like, I got a chance to meet my favorite R&B artist, which was Mary J. Blige. Like, I never would have been able to do that. Like, being on a job, they would just send me to like different. And it was funny because the way they sent me to that detail was hilarious. I come to work, do a 3 to 11, and I get a notification. You have to be back to work at 5 a.m. in the morning. It's like, what? There's a sergeant then. And I was like, you knew not to go and complain up there to those girls because they trying to get people to go through all these details.
Yeah.
So they give me a notification and they watching me. I didn't know they were watching me. They were watching me to see how I would react. So I just signed it. And I always kept clothes in my locker. So I was like, I guess I ain't going home tonight. So I go in there. I was like, we had a shower and everything. And I was able to stay overnight. And I had to be at Central Park early in the morning. I didn't know what I was going to. I get down there and it's Mary J. Blige. I lose my mind. When I got back, I was like, thank you. They was like, we thought you were going to go off. And I was like, they was like, you just took it. I was like, man, I'm so numb from these notifications. I just take them and sign them. Like, okay. Because it's very hard to get off of it. In the beginning, it was very hard to get off on that job. Very hard. I missed a lot of family functions
Okay.
There's two things that go on. One, you don't want to burn up all your time because it's a mental drain that you go through. So a lot of times it would be like my family would have stuff or a cousin would have something. And I may say, hey, I'm going to go. But that day I'll be so mentally drained that I don't want to go out, and I would just sit home. And then I would miss it. And people are like, oh, she just don't want to interact. And I'm like, it's not that. It's a mental thing. I just need to decompose. I think it was Lena White. She had an interview and they said to her something about going out. She said, I like staying home because I'm around people all day. So when we're police officers, we're in the street around people all day long. So you don't get that time to yourself.
Right.
A lot of times I would miss things because I just needed to mentally decompose. And so if you don't understand it, then a lot of times you didn't get it, and it was okay because I didn't communicate that. So it was okay for them to have that feeling. But that's just what I was going through. And then when the anxiety kicked in, and then that, I was just like, listen, I'll see y'all when I see y'all.
See ya. And they're like, oh, she don't want to be bothered.
Yeah.
Because I know how our people do.
It wasn't that. Like I said, 9/11 hit me really bad. And I think the reason why it hit me so bad, because that day, it was the most beautiful day in the world. It was like the sun was out. It was just like nothing can go wrong in that day, and everything went wrong. So there was a guy that lived in the community. He was breaking the cameras. Nitro paid like millions of dollars to put those cameras up.
Yes.
So it was a development that I covered, and he broke the cameras. So then my lieutenant comes to me. He's like, hey, do you know this guy? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know this guy. He lives in this building. He got two big pit bulls. He comes down and walks them every time. I knew the time, everything. So that's what community policing does, because when you work in that area, you know everybody. You should know everybody in that community.
Right.
So I was able to bring him to the building and everything. And it was funny because we had the next tells then. And the guy comes out with these two big, huge pit bulls. And my lieutenant was like, Lee, grab him. I'm like, I'm not grabbing him with that dog and those dogs. I said, look, he's going to walk the dogs, and then he's going to go back in, and then he's going to come back out. And I knew it because that was my area where I work. I knew it in and out. And he did just that. He put the dogs in, and then he came back out, and then we locked him up for that. And I just so happened to have that prisoner, so I had to stay with him. So when 9/11 hit, the whole building got cleared out. And it's just me and a lieutenant there. I had to watch the prisoner. He's sitting there, and the radio was coming over, and we're listening to it. And there was a lady, her name was Maura Smith. I think she was on every daily newspaper. And she got trapped in the building. And you can hear her screaming. I can still hear her voice like right now. You can hear her screaming in the background. She was like, I'm here. And then you can hear the cops say, I can see her. And then simultaneously you hear somebody else coming over the radio, clear the building is falling. And it's like, what the hell? And me and the lieutenant, we're looking at each other like, what the f is going on? And we're like, you can hear her. She's like, I'm here. You can hear her screaming over the radio. And the guy was like, I see it. And he was like, get out of the building is falling. And you heard that voice scream and scream. It was high, and then it just went low to the so that you didn't hear anything anymore. And when they found her body, it was all over the paper. It's like, oh, they found Maura, and that took me. That took me right there.
Wow.
I think that's what the anxiety just was like. What the world? Because that could have been me running into that building.
Right.
And getting trapped in the building. So that's where the PTSD and all that stuff comes. It comes. And as you continue to take in more and more stuff, then at some point you're gonna break. So when you come out of that job, you gotta do it. You gotta do the therapy. I don't know why people don't do it. Some people are still afraid of it, but man, I was like, my daughter was like, you should do it. I was like, you know what? Let me call up. And it went really well especially in the beginning, they went really well.
I think people feel like it's taboo, but I think it could be so helpful. It could be so powerful for your peace. Peace.
Yeah.
That's something I know now as an adult, I take very seriously. Peace. Everything else is like
important. It's like, very important.
Anything that's going to disrupt my peace don't even matter. Don't even matter. Like, I'm out. I'm out. I like being grown now because I can be like, peace. I'm like, I'm out. All right. So I'm gonna ask you this. When was a time that you shattered the glass?
I feel like I shattered the glass when I became the ICO. That's something that females don't go into.
What is that?
I'm sorry, it's an integrity control officer.
Oh.
We in charge of everything. We're in charge of everything that comes in that command, property, prisoners, police officers, any negative, anything. That's what we're in charge of. We watch videos, training. Like we was like the main office in that building where everyone came in to tell their problems before they were about to get in trouble. We were firing people. It was a lot. So when you see the list of names that come down once you've been approved to get into those assignments, because you have to be approved by the internal affairs before you get in, and they do like a red robin check on you and everything. So once you get in that, you see the list of names, and it would be like only 2 females. It was me and another female on there, and the rest is just men. Yeah.
And so when the round robin is that they all get an opportunity to interview you to see if you're cut for the position?
Yeah, so they check you out, make sure you don't have no investigations going on against you. They check out your background, they do everything, and then you go down for an interview. And the interview was a little challenging for me. I was like, what is this? Like, did I kill somebody? But I just kept my composure, was very, very calm, and just looked everybody in their eyes and just answered their question, and then that was just it. And eventually my name came down and I got approved, and I stayed in that position all the way until I retired.
Now, is that higher salary?
I was like, what's so my name went in first, but I had to work with an operations coordinator who, it was a little bit more freedom. Like I had flexibility with my hours, and that was very important to me. So if I wanted to come in and do 11 to 7, I did 11 to 7. If I wanted to do a double, like 3 to 11, and then work from 11 to the morning and extend my weekend, then that's what I did. So I had an assistant, and we would just work our hours. Like he would work 1 hour and I would work different hours, and we would just try to, fix our schedule so that somebody was in the office.
Okay. I was just trying to see, like, y'all better pay attention if you they're gonna try to apply, go get their job. Look, Rhonda said money.
So the job right now is like I feel like we're underrepresented in that aspect of the job. I think more of us need to apply for the jobs. Those that are ready. I wouldn't force anybody to do it. Let's say, for instance, my grandson came to me and said, "Hey, I want to be a police officer." Then I would back him with that. But that's not something I probably would push on him. Because I just feel like you have to be really mentally to deal with that. Because remember, you're taking somebody's freedom from them. You're telling them that you can't go home today. You can't go to your kids today. You can't do any of those things. So when you're in the middle of that, that's a lot. And like I said, all the things that you endure, like you see death. I think the first time when I came out of the academy, before I came out of the academy, they took us to the morgue. Yeah. I seen a guy that was ran over by a Coca-Cola truck. I was like, oh my God. I seen them using lentils, like I don't know what they used it for, but it was like some scooping device. And I was like, what the hell? And then they showed me a female who had got into it with, she didn't get into a boyfriend. The boyfriend was stalking her. And the cops did everything right. They filled out the domestic violence report. And only thing she had in her hand was a domestic violence report, and he shot her in the head. So you could tell she had fresh braids in her hair. Her nails was done. Very petite, beautiful Black female was laid out in this, in the, I don't know what you call it, but the thing that they where they store the bodies at, and they showed us that body. And that was a lot too. So you could see where the bullet entered through her head, and it was like, oh, this is real.
Yeah. Oh my God. All right. Do you like horror movies?
No, I don't.
How do you build the capacity to watch that? I think I would have passed out already. I'm like sitting here like clutch pearls, like what?
I love movies. That's all. I love romance movies. I think Beale Street is one of my best movies. I love it. I love romance movies. I do not like horror movies. I don't even like to watch them. Not even for a minute. Sometimes, what's his name? The black writer that writes all the who wrote, I think he wrote Get Out, right?
Oh, Jordan Peele.
I love his writing so much, and I love him as a producer or director, whatever his title is. I love him so much that sometimes I would glimpse at his stuff because his stuff is so good and unique. But do I like watching overall? No.
Okay.
But there's some people
I feel like with that job, it's like a horror movie that just don't stop. Like, that's how I took it.
You see, I had to ask. The hospitals and people have been shot. I think it was one Father's Day. One guy decided to go out and just start shooting. He wanted to die by police fire. And I'm like, how did this guy get a gun? He has Walmart shoes on, no money in his pocket. And he has a firearm that I know when we buy it, it's about $500. So where did he get the money to get this?
Right.
Did somebody give it to him? And that's a big thing too now, because I'm like, if I go to buy a firearm, I know how much they cost. They run anywhere from $500 to $1,000. So if somebody that doesn't have any money, where are they getting these guns? And that ghost gun, when that came out and they started speaking about it, that's when it started making sense to me. I said, they got to be doing something where they're selling the guns for a lot cheaper. Because most of the people that we were locking up, they don't have any money. So I'm like, when I was in the Bronx, we would lock up people, and I wasn't getting the amount of arrests like I was getting when I was a SNUS, Street Narcotics Enforcement Unit. Like, I would do those arrests, and it would be a lot of money involved, like 10,000 until my kilos of cocaine. We were doing search warrants, a lot of things then. So I understood if they had guns. But when I went to the Bronx, I wasn't getting that.
I don't need to laugh. I got only just back. It's like, no offense, if you're from the Bronx, I'll be arguing.
No. I just meant that it was a different time of era where the drug dealing wasn't as big as it was when I was a street narcotics enforcement sergeant. I'm sorry, let me clear that up.
No, that's all right. Look, we can use a little humor, okay? No, I think we're also in a different time now too, where I'm a kid of the 80s and stuff, and so drug dealing was big, right? And so now it's more drug users than the dealers. Like, being a drug user became more cool. And it's kind of interesting because it's interesting to see these little kids think about using. And the middle school, I will say this, I won't say the school, but there was definitely some cases with middle school students popping pills and stuff like that, and I was just like,
yeah, well, they're rapping about it now. Like, when we listened to rap, we had like Eric B. Rakim, we had like MC Shan, we had those guys rapping about, hold it on your chain, don't restrain. How about I do MC Shan on the service? I heard you my kill. I like to move the crowd.
Yeah. The lyrics are completely different.
Listening to my grandson's music that he's and they're rapping about popping pills and like, where we going with this?
And doing lean, I didn't even know. I be hearing the little kids put me on to everything, and I'm like, what? Why are you talking about that? How is that even appropriate? But I know the game has changed when last year my first graders pulled me aside to have a whole conversation about somebody broke up with somebody and it impacted everybody at recess. And I was like, what? First grade, why are we having so many love troubles?
They didn't watch Beale Street.
No, I mean, what happened to Sesame Street? I was at Sesame Street at 6 years old, not thinking what they're talking about. And so time has changed. They have access to more. And so, in these situations, which is why I really wanted to have this conversation with you, how do we stay protected and safeguarded? Because there is a lot going on.
I think you have to start talking to the kids very early. You can't.
How early is early?
I don't know. It depends on the kid. It
Okay.
depends on the child, I should say. It depends on the child, like how aware they are. I probably would say like when they get up in elementary school, like maybe the 4th or 5th grade, when they get
Okay.
ready to start reaching maybe junior high school.
Yeah.
You don't want to wait too late till they get to high school because then by the time you have that conversation, they already think they know it all. So you
Yeah.
want to kind of like try to embed them, embed all of that as much as information as you can in a more common environment where that person can, express, the kid can express how they're feeling, or just a general conversation, and just little bit by little bit, you talk about it. You talk about the condoms, then you talk a little bit about the drugs, and then you talk about the sex and all that other things. Because those are things that are gonna happen. I was just talking to a friend the other day, and they were like, "There's 3 things kids are gonna do. They're gonna have sex, they're gonna have a drink, and they are going to have a smoke, whether it's a cigarette or whatever." So you want to start having those conversations before they get to that point. And usually it starts
Yeah.
to take place like around junior high school to like high school. So you want to start having that conversation probably before they transfer over into the junior high school.
Yeah. I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. Because I don't know what he gonna be like. Right now, he is a very stern and serious baby.
Mr. Innocent?
Mr. Innocent is very stern and serious.
Yeah.
It reminds me of my mother a lot. In
Oh,
that,
okay.
in that,
It's like
that I was
your mom too.
I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to handle all of that.
Yeah,
So,
you
please,
will.
little baby, be okay.
You will.
And again, being safeguarded in these streets because anything can happen.
Anything
Anything
can
can
happen on a social aspect. It can happen being pulled over. I mean, as being black in just America, it's hard.
It's yeah,
It's very hard. We get hit with everything. Like somebody else, another culture may get hit with a little bit. We get hit like double, like triple. So we have to. A lot of times, our kids don't understand. Like when we're trying to teach them certain things, but we don't want to scare them
yeah,
either.
yeah,
Like I didn't know how to do that like before, but now I'm a little older and I learned a lot from my daughter. Some of the things she's like a little bit more liberal than I was. Back then it was like, yo, you do this or you do that, and that's it.
yeah,
But she's a little bit liberal, a little bit more open, so it kind of allows me to be the same way. But I think you just have to start having those conversations a little bit early, like I said, maybe junior high school, like right before they get to junior high school, or right while they're in junior high school.
How early should we have the conversation with our children about how to interact with police?
I started doing it very early with my grandson. I started doing it very, very early. So I think as soon as he was, I remember he was doing jujitsu and he was in elementary school. And I think I started having those conversations with him then. Like when we're in a car, this is what I need you to do. I need you to sit tight if we ever get pulled over. I need you to just to be not moving around because they can take what you're doing and take it as it being threatening. And I have a firearm in a car. So those are the things. I started having those conversations with him very, very early. I don't know what he's going to do. You never know what your kid is going to do when they're under a lot of stress. All that might just go out the window,
Yeah.
but you try your best to have those conversations very early, especially when these things come on TV. Try to have another family conversation with them also.
Yeah. I'm gonna wind it down.
Okay.
But this has been fun. This has definitely been fun, and thank you for being so open and candid with the whole conversation. I hope I made you feel comfortable to do that.
You did. I was nervous like 10 minutes before. I'm like, am I really doing this? And I reached out to you, right?
I'm like, Renee, yes. Yes, we here with it. What would your advice be now to anyone who's interested in becoming an officer in at this stage of the game? What would your advice be to them?
I would most likely probably tell them, which is hard, is when you get on the job, you can't really see colors too much. You kind of got to deal with the person that's in front of you and deal with that. The other thing I would say is if you're coming from a community like Queensbridge or any of the other inner communities, urban communities, I will also say that you may have to change your friends. You will have to change your friends. You will have to
Ooh,
do it differently. You will. Because our job, like I said, is a business and they don't want anybody to tarnish that. And the more you tarnish it, the more it hurts them, because every time a cop gets sued, then that comes out of their pocket and it makes the brand look bad. So you have to move differently. It doesn't mean that you have to be nasty to people. It doesn't mean that but you just have to move different. So I remember when I was a cop, I don't really play chess anymore. I need to get back into it. But every day I would play at least 2 chess matches before I went to work. And that's how you have to move. You have to move 3 steps ahead, because they give us these things what are called like PBA, the sergeants gets SBA cards, the lieutenants gets LBA cards. When you give those things out, that is your name, your shield, and who you are. That person is doing anything, or somebody that person may not be doing anything. That person may not be doing anything, but somebody else that's with them may be. And that comes back to that person, and then that comes back to you. And next thing you know, you're in a GO15, which is like a interview to determine what level of discipline you may get if they find any negative findings.
Wait a minute. Wait. You think, okay, because I used to always try to figure out who I know that could give me one of those little badges.
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yes.
I did not know that. And so if you give me a one of those stickers,
the cards,
and I do something that's in the wrong, they're coming back for you.
Yes, depending on what it is. So say for instance, let's say involve you in a shooting or something, and you get caught with my card in your pocket, or you're selling drugs or whatever, you get caught with that card, and they're coming back to me. And then I can get suspended. I've heard people who have just went out and played basketball with somebody who they may have grew up with. And just because that was a connection there, they lost maybe 10 days from that individual getting into something.
What? Like unpaid days?
Yeah, just from playing basketball together. Like that person may have called. They might be under some other, they might be being watched by somebody else, and the cop may not have even known. And now they're like, oh, you know this cop? Oh, let's call him in. And then they call him in. It's like, oh, no, I just play ball with the guy. I don't hang out. You don't come to my house. But you was associated with him. Okay, we're going to take 10 days from you. And now it's on your record. And you're like, what?
Wow.
Yeah.
What? Yo, you just.
I only give it out to like people that are in my family that I'm very, very close with. You know, you had like people ask for them. I gave it out one time to a lady who was, I think I was doing some diet thing back then, and she was so good. I gave her a card. That was the first time I gave somebody out of that, circle card. I gave it to a card, and it came back to me. Cop pulled her brother. She gave it to her brother. The cop pulled the brother over, and it just happened to be a cop from my precinct. And he said to the guy, "How do you know Sergeant Lee?" And the person said, he is good friends with me. And the cop was like, it's not a he, it's a she. And he took the card and he gave the guy a summons. So he came back to the command. The guy was very nice to the man. He came back to the command, and then he said, did you give this guy a card? Because he said that, I knew you're not a boy, you're not a guy. I said, get the fuck out of here. And I just never gave the card out. I mean, only thing he was doing was a traffic infraction. Imagine if he had been doing something else. That would have went somewhere else. And after
that officer happened to actually know you.
Yeah.
To have that discernment.
And he gave me.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He gave me back the card. And I was like, wow.
Elaine and Sam said it was an amazing interview. Muriel, right? Oh my God, whoa.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't even know. I haven't have to somebody try to figure out somebody to chop this up because you got some heavy hitters. In this whole interview, I just want to say thank you again for sharing and your expertise. You definitely taught me some new things. I'm
Okay.
happy that in a heavy topic we also got to laugh.
Yeah.
And salute to you for your service for our community and those that you actually served.
Yeah. So my vision is really to go across the globe as much as I can, is to visit other police departments. So I went to Dubai already, and I was able to talk to their police officers over there. Their police way different. They don't. Their cops on the train. They don't have guns. They said they don't want to hurt the kids. There's also no crime over there. You can leave your bag there and nobody will touch it. So that's one place, and I'm hoping to get to a couple of other places to learn how other police departments actually function also.
So do they wait, hold on. All right, we're supposed to be ending, but I'm gonna ask
No, we're gonna talk today. People are going to sleep.
Wait. So do they just allowed you, although you're retired, to kind of see like how do you approach that conversation?
So I there was a cop that was in the train station. I just went up to him and talked to him. He was a little standoffish at first, and then I just said, "Hey, listen, I do law enforcement, and in the States." And then I told him who I was, and then he was open, and he was like, "No, we don't carry guns on the train." I was like, "Why?" Because it was a train station we were going on to get to another point, and he was like, "No, we have kids. We're afraid of the kids. We don't want to hurt the kids." I was like, "What?" He said, "But the people that have guns are the ones that are on the street." And I was like, "Oh wow." And there are cops out there. Yes, they have Lamborghinis. It's a lot of money in Dubai.
It's a lot of money in Dubai.
No homeless people. Nobody begging. You can pretty much eat off the streets over there. There's no alcohol, so don't go over there. You got to bring your own stuff to customs.
Yeah.
But we had an amazing time. The food was great. No pork. Everything was either lamb or fish. But we had a really great time. There was a great experience that I had, and then after that COVID hit, so it kind of slowed my travels down. But I'm hoping to pick it up this year.
Good for you. Yeah.
We're gonna do a trip too.
yeah. Listen, I'm trying to do my 6-month tour over the continent of Africa. So yeah, definitely.
I know when you told me, I was like, where is that? I had to actually go on the map. I was like, listen, I know you since you was a little baby in Pampers.
You don't have to say that, Renee.
I'm sorry to see you just like full circle. You got your own school. You got like, you have a doctor's degree. You got the master's. Just to see.
No PhD, people, no PhD.
But just to see you just do so well from the community where we come from, it shows that it can be done.
Yes.
You just got to stay focused and just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And you're doing it. I'm so proud of you. I had to reach out to you. I was like, I got to get on your platform.
No, thank you. Thank you for that. I got very humble beginnings anyway. Mm-hmm. And one thing I will give both parents credit for is keeping me grounded.
Yeah.
Like, don't let your intellect get to your head. This is still where you come from. Mm-hmm. And you carry yourself accordingly. And my mother, no nonsense and whatever. I mean, that's I could do a whole segment on growing up in Lisa's house. Lord have mercy. And it's funny because I know a different version of her than from what my brothers know.
Oh yeah,
I literally grew up with you all versus them, so it is different. But I have a tremendous big heart of gratitude. I love all of you guys. I even love your grandparents. Yeah. And
on Facebook, I love everything I see. The places that you go, you post it. It's like intellectual. Some of the stuff. Remember, I posted something today. I was like, I'm in my 50s. Do you have a class for me? Because some of the stuff you talking about, you typing about, I'm like, I have no idea what this stuff is.
Yeah. I thank the UN for that. Like my time at the UN is the only reason why Reading for Smiles even came about.
Oh wow, I didn't know
that's how I built it. I built it with them. You had to build a organization that could be global, and it needed to address one of the issues on the international stage. And so I just jumped in on a project and made it a dream. That's all.
How long have you had your school?
13 years now.
Ooh. I'm gonna
I
do it.
know.
I'm gonna have to. We got to switch roles. I'm gonna interview you. You have an amazing background, also.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Doing it. I was like, I'm really proud of you.
13 years and since 2018 officially on my own. So my money is my money, you know?
Right.
And so but I still have this open heart for the kids and making sure that they know they have access. And I say that because you were in a unique position and I'm in a unique position.
Mm-hmm.
And something that really bothered me. We didn't really dive deep into it too, but looking at levels of racism in these industries, because it is, you know, structural confines here.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget a literacy coach who's supposed to be helping train teachers. We're in an administrative meeting and we're talking about children that weren't doing well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, well, those are the kids from the projects. So we expected them to score low.
Wow.
And it boiled me for like 10,000 reasons.
Yeah.
But the first one was the audacity for you to say that out your mouth. Two, how could you sit here at this table? As I feel like I'm very critical about educators. Like we're supposed to be the cheerleaders in children's lives. Through and throughout, right? And so if I'm already looking at you, oh, because you're one of these kids from the projects, you're not supposed to make it anyway, then that's a problem. That's a problem. You're not here to really help these kids. You're here to hinder them. And so now I don't trust anything that's coming out of your mouth. And so because I am my mother's child, I disrupted the whole meeting and was just like, yo, how far do you think that you made it? Because I'm one of those kids that came from the projects and yet I'm sitting at the table with you. So how far did you make it? Or how far did I make it?
So it's very important for us to all be in those rooms. So that's why if anybody out there is thinking about taking a police exam, I am on Facebook. You can reach out to me at any point in time and I will walk you through it. I will try to mentor you as much as I can. I still have my friend on here, Stanley. He just posted something.
Yeah, Stanley said the part with the PBA cards is very true. I saw this with my own eyes. So all of your young cops out there, watch out who you give those PBA cards to. You will be held accountable for it. I'm telling you, that was like shattering right there because I did not know that. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So people ask for them, and I'm like, no, I can't give you one.
No.
You try it. You don't want to tell your friends no or anything like that because you just want to show that you are humble and that you for getting in a position where you can now come back and look out for people. But then at first, you got to protect yourself first.
Yeah.
So people who are getting on the job, like you gotta protect yourself first. You don't want to embarrass your family or get to a point where you bought something and now you can't afford it because now you just lost your job over some nonsense. So like I said, to anybody out there who has a kid that's going into law enforcement or thinking about it, I mean, it's a great experience once you start to move up the ladder. The pay in the beginning it's not good. They're still waiting for a contract. They haven't gotten it. I hope that they do get it because you do need to pay them. They've been out of contract for a while. Because like you said, you get what you get. You get what you paid for. So they do need to increase that in that part. But and just like anybody out there that wants to, you can move all the way up to like the police commissioner, who she says she's from Queensbridge. I don't know. I've never seen her out there, but she says she is from. But you can go as far as the police commissioner. And like Eric Adams said, he was locked up before, and now he's the mayor. He got harassed a lot on the job, though.
I believe it. I just feel like he's somebody who's a little, extra sarcastic. So I could see somebody coming for him. But I get it. Wow. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Yes. No, thank you. Oh, your sister said, where's my
I don't know who she associated with now. It's in the mail.
Oh man, as she hit you with it's in the mail. Oh man, All right.
I'm gonna send away.
Oh man, that is hilarious. Oh my God. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in with me and Renee tonight. I'll be up. Well, I'm up again on Friday, and we'll have our next speaker, who's a real estate broker.
Nice.
Yeah, she's somebody I've been friends with for over 20 years.
Great.
And yeah, it's crazy. She went to school for like foreign languages. Like she spoke 5 languages and was in banking. And then was like, I'm out of here. I'm going to real estate. And I'm like, for real?
Oh, okay.
It worked out. So, you know.
Okay. I can't wait to chime in on that. I try to make that all of your interviews.
Thank you.
Well, with Hollywood, because he's another one I knew since he was a little boy, and I love what he's doing in the community too.
Yes, I love them, and I'm actually supposed to. I think they want to film live one day at the Urban Vegan Roots. So I'm gonna do that. I'm cool with the owner too. Not cool like they cool with them, but I'm cool with them.
The owner's great. So I've been there before. Their food is
their food is good. If you, I know everybody.
It's good.
That Korean barbecue have me.
Yeah, that Hollywood pizza is on the move. Yes. I've tried everything in there. They even know me when I come in. They're like, "Oh, what you getting now?" You know how it works in here. You know, you got
yes.
And their drinks are really good too.
Yes, I will say, people go check them out. Go check them out. They good people and they do good in the community too. And he doesn't mind giving back at all. David is a really nice guy. And it's just good to know we got good people in the world.
Yes, we do. And they are doing it in Queens. I'm watching all the things that they're doing. I'm gonna let you go, but you got Miles, Hollywood, and Sugar Ray. They're doing their thing for Urban Vegan. You got Trent, who's doing their basketball thing with the kids every Thursday. I think it's from 6 to 8. I'm not, and it's free. And then
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, because I told them about your podcast, and they do that every time. I try to make it down this Thursday. And they take the kids on basketball trips. I just watched them do another. They took the kids to New Jersey, and then they took them to another basketball game. And he's posting that live. Then you have, I think there's another little area over there where they do stuff in the community to combat the crime that's taking place. You have people that are in there. So, and then Nas came out for Christmas and gave all these magnificent toys to everyone. Yeah. I'm so honored and happy to be from Queensbridge. Like I'm repping Queensbridge all day long. Any event you have, you call me, I'm coming.
Yes. I love it. Well, all right, y'all. Thank you. See you next time, Renee, or see you in these virtual streets.
When you do the thing at Urban Vegan, I'm gonna come through.
Yes. I'm gonna ask Miles and them to confirm some dates.
Okay, let me know, and I'll definitely be there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Love you, everybody. Thank you for chiming in. I appreciate it.
Yes. All right, you guys. Thank you again. Please make sure you hit the like, share, and subscribe button. I have so many interviews that's coming up, as well as more interviews that were pre-recorded and not even released. I love you guys for staying in. Tonight was awesome. I learned a lot. I hope you learned a lot. Make sure you tune in, hit the button, check me out. If you know somebody that has shattered the glass on their journey and has a dope story, please tell them about me. They can go to shattertheglasspodcast.com and actually schedule their interview. I'll build with them in the background and make sure we're a fit for each other. All right. Oh my God. Tonight was just so everything. I love it. On that note, y'all, I'll see y'all on Friday night live.
Thanks for joining Shatter the Glass with Yone. Tune in next time to hear more breakthroughs. But before you go, share, like, and subscribe.